I'm Dr. David E. Clarke, Clarke with an E. Welcome back to the Enough is Enough podcast. Today's topic, the trauma bond trap. When you live with a narcissist, you get trapped with him. You are unable to leave. In fact, even after you leave him, you're still trapped. You can't move on from him. Why? Because you are trauma bonded to him. And your trauma bond doesn't go away. You have to make it go away. Talked to a lady this last week on a phone advice session. Been divorced for, I think it was 12 years from her narcissist. She's still tied to him, still obsesses about him, still worries about him, still is tied to him in a trauma bond. I recommended Codependent Hell for her, and I'm going to recommend it for you. So even divorcing him, which you should do, doesn't take care of the trauma bond. In this video, I cover 3 trauma bond scenarios. These scenarios reveal what a trauma bond does to you, how it traps you. And I will offer you a resource that is designed to shred your trauma bond and get you free from the narc once and for all. All my resources, books, video series, phone advice sessions, social media, this podcast, of course, are on my website, davideclarkephd.com, Clarke with an E. Okay. The first trauma bond scenario is I'm still trying to change the narc. You are still married to the narc and you live with him. You know he's a narc. You know he's an abuser. You know he's damaging you and your children. But you aren't going anywhere. Your trauma bond has taken away your identity and independence. You think your only option is to stay with someone who is destroying you. So you continue to do all you can to change the narc and the marriage. You pray your heart out for God to change the narc. It's not happening. It's been years and it's not happening. You continue to pray. You talk to your pastor. Pastors are wonderful people, whether it's a man or a woman, but they're not trained in psychology. They do not understand narcissists, and they really can't help you. Now, the narc may actually go with you to talk to the pastor. This is entertainment for the narc. It doesn't work because 99% of pastors don't know how to deal with a narcissist. You might see a marriage counselor. You don't have a marriage problem, you have a narc problem. The narc may actually go with you. Again, he'll enjoy going to a marriage counselor with you. Many will. It doesn't work because 99% of Christian therapists don't know how to deal with a narcissist. The narc will control the therapy. He will lie his head off. He'll end up having the counselor on his side and blaming you for the marriage problems. Don't waste your time. Or he'll agree to everything in session and then do nothing when you get back home. You read marriage books. You have a huge library of marriage books. Unfortunately, all of them are for marriages where there isn't a narc, so they are no help. Look, Dr. David E. Clarke with an E, I've got marriage books for non-narc marriages. I Don't Want a Divorce has been in print for 16 years. God has used it to save many non-narc marriages. Married but Lonely is another book I wrote for, again, if you have a marriage problem, even serious marriage problems. I saw those for 35 years, but not a narc? Okay. With a narc, different story. You might try one of these marriage intensives, which are very costly. Maybe you might go to more than one. I've talked to ladies all the time who have been to more than one marriage intensive. They should get their money back. The narc will go to the marriage intensive to look good, to look like he's really trying. He'll win over everybody in the dumb marriage intensive. You spend a fortune and you get nothing. Marriage intensives are for non-narc couples with serious relationship issues. The people that are trained and even licensed in their states that do the screening for the marriage intensives, they just want you to come to the marriage intensive. I'm just telling you. And they're not going to screen for narcissism because they don't care. Or they think that they'll change the narc. You're going to end up looking like the problem. He'll charm everybody on the property. When you get back home, same old narc, same old abuse. Except now, the narc can add the marriage intensive to his I tried resume. Oh, he'll love that. He'll say, I even went to a marriage intensive, spent $4,000, and it wasn't enough for her. Yeah. You keep searching for answers for why the narc is abusive, as I mentioned in my previous podcast. As you search, he continues to abuse you, which makes your trauma bond even stronger. He'll never stop abusing you. Your trauma bond blinds you to the fact that he's never going to change. You know he's awful and abusive, but you still think he'll change. No, he won't. The narc loves all your efforts to try to be a better wife, to try and change him, to try and figure him out. He knows he has you under his control. You aren't going anywhere. He knows he can beat you literally to death, emotionally and physically, and you won't leave him. Okay, the second trauma bond scenario is, I think the narc is repentant. The narc's serious sin has been exposed. Porn, adulterous affairs, emotional and physical, his gambling, his bad investments, his alcoholism, his drug addiction, whatever it might be. Maybe his violence. Or you have finally had enough of his abuse and he knows you've had enough. You want out, you want a divorce. You may still be living with him, but he knows you are done. You may be separated, you may have filed for divorce. So the narc launches a brilliant, absolutely brilliant fake repentance campaign to stop the divorce and win you back. Because of your trauma bond, which is still in place, even if you've left him, you say you're done with him, but you aren't even close to being done, and he knows that. You still want to be married to him, and he knows it. The narc loves the challenge of fooling others and fooling you and getting you back. Oh, it's the thrill of a lifetime. It's his narc Super Bowl. He puts on an Oscar-winning performance of being truly, sincerely repentant. And since you are trauma bonded to him, you want to believe him, and you do believe him. You put up some resistance, but it doesn't last long under his avalanche of repentance. I can't tell you how many ladies I've talked to, especially ladies, some men. Hundreds at this point, after 8-10 years of really being in this narcissism space, who have left the narc and then gone back. Oh, and it just hurts them worse. If you've done that, okay, leave and don't go back now. The narc convinces everyone, or just about everyone, that he is a changed man. He is Mr. Repentance. He wins your kids over and convinces them he is different, he loves them, he loves you, and he wants a happy family. And kids are easy to win over. He's the dad. But gosh, that can't happen if mom divorces me. Kids, none of this can happen. And the kids want you to stay married. Most kids do. Instead of seeing through his act, ignoring his dog and pony show and divorcing him, you give him another chance. You cave in, just like you always do. Your trauma bond won't let you divorce him. And once again, he lets you down. It shouldn't be a surprise to you, but it is. After a few weeks, maybe a month if you're lucky, maybe several months, he goes right back to abusing you. And of course, it's your fault in his crazy head. The third trauma bond scenario is, I miss the narc. This may be the saddest one of all. You actually divorced the narc, but you still miss the dirtball who caused so much pain and trauma in your life. You think about the good times with him, don't you? You're actually jealous of the narc's new woman. You think he'll change and be a good husband to her. You think about that. There's zero chance of that, but you think about that. You still think that he will see the light, change, and want you back. You're still nice to him and do things for him. This is like baking cookies for a man who assaulted you and your children and burned your house down. Hey, here's some peanut butter cookies. You blame yourself for the divorce. You think you didn't try hard enough. You think you gave up too soon. You got all kinds of regrets. So you can't move on with your life. You're frozen. You're sad. You're depressed. You don't date. You feel guilty. Even if you know the divorce was the right thing to do and you don't want him back, you are still stuck to the narc. You still think about him all the time. You obsess about what he's doing, who he is with. Why do you miss him? Why can't you move forward with a new life? Why can't you be happy and joyful that you divorced him and feel free? What is the matter with you? You're still trauma bonded to the narc. That's the problem. Divorce does not end your trauma bond. Your trauma bond to your narc keeps you weak, sick, in denial, stuck in codependency, stuck to your narc. You will be stuck to the narc forever unless you get rid of your trauma bond. You know what? The narc could die. I've had narcs die. And I'm talking to the wife, the widow, and she's still stuck to him in a trauma bond. Like, you don't need to be ashamed of your trauma bond. It's what happens when you live with a narc, to everybody. But you do need to fix it. And unlike the narc, you are fixable. Absolutely you are. That's where I come in. My ebook, Codependent Hell, is what you need to break your trauma bond once and for all, whether you're still living with a narc or you're divorced. And you'll find this book on my website, David E. Clarke, PhD.com, Clarke with an E. And subscribe to my YouTube channel and help us help others break their trauma bonds to their narcs.